The state of emergency goes on in Pakistan as the government crackdown against opposition continues, with reports of hundreds of arrests. Will the country hold elections as scheduled? And where is Pervez Musharraf heading? This is Inside Story. Hello, I'm Imran Garda. Soldiers and police are filling the streets, manning checkpoints near the presidential palace, the parliament and the Supreme Court in Islamabad. President Musharraf declared Pakistan in a state of emergency on Saturday, but such is the brutality of Musharraf's clampdown that many are calling it martial law. Hugo McPherson has more.
A state of emergency or martial law? Fears of martial law in Pakistan are growing.
It is a martial law, although they have not established martial law courts. But once when there is no constitution and when the things are not regulated under the constitution, and another provisional constitutional order has been given, and that too has been given by Chief of Army Staff, so that means there is a martial law.
Martial law typically involves removal of civilian government. But Pakistan's parliament is set to hold session on Wednesday, so it's still in place and seems to be functioning. The civilian judiciary would face closure under martial law, but sources Tuesday say it's business as usual at the Supreme Court in Islamabad. But it has been surrounded by a bristling police barricade. And it's the police and military who take sweeping powers in cases of martial law. The police have certainly been busy, arresting hundreds of unarmed opposition leaders, activists and lawyers, and beating them openly and brutally. Since Musharraf announced the state of emergency Saturday, his clampdown has been conducted with all the brutal hallmarks of martial law. Of course, some might say that Pakistan has been under martial law since 1999, when General Pervez Musharraf brought Pakistan under the control of the armed forces.
Well, joining our discussion today are our guests in Boston, Hussein Haqqani, Director of the Center for International Relations and a professor at Boston University. He's also a former advisor to Pakistani Prime Ministers. In London, Shehbaz Sharif, President of the PMLN party and brother of ousted Prime Minister Nawaz Sharif. Gentlemen, thank you very much for joining us. Mr. Haqqani in Boston, if I could start off with you first, sir. Was self-preservation the main reason for Pervez Musharraf deciding on implementing a state of emergency?
Absolutely, and it is not a state of emergency because the state of emergency is provided for in Pakistan's constitution. This is a suspension of the constitution, and when the constitution is suspended, Musharraf is deriving power from his uniform, not from the law of the land. It was self-preservation. In 1999, he waged his first coup when he was about to be removed from office, and now when he felt that the Supreme Court was going to act against him, he wages his second coup. It is always Musharraf first with General Musharraf.
Shehbaz Sharif, do you believe this is martial law disguised as a state of emergency?
No, it's a straight, simple and pure martial law, because there is no provision in the Constitution of Pakistan that the Chief of Army Staff can promulgate PCO, Provisional Constitutional Order. And having done so, it is a martial law without any guise, and it's a naked martial law. You can call it technical because there are no military courts operating. But the point at issue is that Musharraf, 8 years ago, when he usurped power from Nawaz Sharif, the then elected Prime Minister of Pakistan, he vowed to the nation that I will replace sham democracy with genuine democracy. 8 years down the line, he has made another coup against his own government. And today, where Pakistan stands is a question of all of us to see. I think Musharraf has faltered badly. He has done it for his own self-protection. He has done it to prolong and lengthen his own rule and rule Pakistan forever. I think people of Pakistan have judged him now very clearly. He cannot stay in power anymore. But the problem is, when he leaves Pakistan, Pakistan will be in a very bad state. I hope and pray to God that I'm proven wrong, but this is what my lurking fear is.
Mr. Sharif, the judiciary was due to announce the legality of his election as president. Do you think they were going to rule overwhelmingly against him?
Two things. He was very fearful of a verdict which was about to be handed down by the apex court, and it was being discussed, and it was in the air that under the constitution he cannot contest for the office of the president in the uniform of a general. And he was so fearful that he preempted that move of the apex court and sent them packing home. Now the question at issue is that some of the judges who were then in the Supreme Court have now been forced or have been lured into to take oath under his PCO, which is nothing but a personal oath of loyalty to one man, to the dictator Musharraf. And the constitution stands suspended today. Musharraf has taken this excuse, and under the pretext of fighting the war against terrorism, he thought, and he made this known to the public, particularly to the West, that the apex court was coming in the way of his war against terror, that they were an irritant, that they had released 61 accused. Now the God's almighty truth is that apex court never did that. 61 people who were released were under the illegal custody of the agencies for years, and their whereabouts were known to nobody, not even to their near ones. The point at issue is that on 4th of November, Musharraf releases 28 militants to get in exchange 200 soldiers who had surrendered to the militants in West frontier. Now what is this? Secondly, and more importantly, if that were to be the case, why has he made 4 judges take oath under his PCO who were part of the same bench? Thirdly, and more importantly, that months before these accused men were released by the Supreme Court under very valid grounds, I may ask, the suicide bomb in Peshawar, where dozens of people were killed, and Interior Minister Sherpao had a lucky escape. I may ask, how did the bomb blast took place in Islamabad 3 months ago, when the struggle against dictatorship was at full cry? May I ask how that bus got blasted, where 25 army personnel were traveling in Rawalpindi?
All right, Mr. Sharif, I'm sorry to interrupt you. Forgive me for interrupting you. I want to bring Mr. Haqqani into this. Mr. Haqqani, the next question is a double-barreled one. Firstly, as Mr. Sharif mentioned, how important are the judges, and in particular the former Chief Justice Iftikhar Muhammad Chowdhury, to the debate? And secondly, is there a lack of popular uprising against Musharraf besides the lawyers, judges, journalists? Do the ordinary people really care?
Imran, what is ordinary people? Ordinary people are lawyers, farmers, journalists, teachers. So this argument is a sham argument that this is just the lawyers and just the judges and it's not ordinary people. Judges and lawyers are also ordinary people. Now let's go back to your first question. The fact remains that General Musharraf in 1999 made the argument that all of Pakistan's politicians were flawed, and that's why he had to step in. Now he's making the argument that the judges are flawed. The flaw in General Musharraf's argument is that he seems to make the case that he's the only patriot in Pakistan. If 160 million Pakistanis are not patriotic, and he's a patriot just by virtue of being a full general, that does not represent Pakistan in a very positive light. The judges did, of course, show activism. And they did so because for years they had not done so. They had not taken up human rights cases. They still haven't taken certain crucial cases up. In fact, I am the one who would complain against Justice Chowdhury for not taking up the ISI case of 1990, when there was an election in which the inter-services intelligence funded politics and politicians with money taken from a bank, the Mehran Bank. And that case is pending before the Supreme Court. I think Justice Chaudhary was trying to implement the constitution, so were the other judges. And General Musharraf's problem is he wants his way or the highway. Now he's going to have problems because the rest of the world understands that this is not about saving Pakistan, this is about saving Musharraf. In the last 48 hours, the only arrests General Musharraf has made have been of lawyers, judges, political activists, politicians. He has not done anything to fight the war against terror, and if the Pakistani military and police are going to be distracted by surrounding the Supreme Court instead of surrounding terrorist safe havens, I'm sure people in Washington will wake up to the reality that the war against terror is just an excuse for General Musharraf's self-aggrandizement.
Mr. Sharif, talking about the crackdown and the arrests, why do you think Benazir Bhutto's PPP has seemingly not been targeted in this crackdown, or not targeted as much as the other groups? Do you feel this is because a power-sharing deal is possibly imminent?
Well, I think you have to ask this question from Mohtarma, but I can say very safely that this power-sharing agreement, which was cobbled by the help of the Americans, or their intervention, more proper to say, I think hasn't worked. It is already falling apart. And let us be very clear that any such agreement will bring more problems in Pakistan, will complicate the whole situation. If Pakistan has to survive as a vibrant and forwarding society, then free and fair elections, transparent elections are a must. And that can only happen under a very neutral government. Musharraf has to step down, and all political leaders must be allowed to participate in these elections in a level playing field, including Nawaz Sharif. Now, the question at issue is that with this blind judiciary who has taken Musharraf's personal oath of allegiance, how can they be a judge, a referee for such elections where massive rigging will take place, where pre-poll rigging and post-poll rigging will take place? And this judiciary will have not a word to say then. They will be totally mum, they will be totally quiet.
All right,
Secondly,
all right. Don't go away, sir. We have to take a break. You can continue after the break. When we come back, we discuss the international dimension of the Pakistani crisis and ask whether former Prime Minister Benazir Bhutto would be a better candidate who could continue the war on terror with maybe a more democratic mandate. Stay with us.